favorite music. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to talk with you today about the heart of a musician. So, I started playing the cello 47 years ago. Hard to believe, I know. I only look 29, maybe, but 47 years ago, at the age of 9, I knew that this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Wasn't something that I could verbalize at the age of 9, but I knew that I had the heart of a musician. Now, studying music is not an easy thing, and there are lots of obstacles along the way, but I was very fortunate to have a lot of people in my life who helped me pass those obstacles and helped keep me on my path and moving forward. But what if you were born with the heart of a musician, but you really didn't have access to those resources? What if there was really nothing to help you along the way? Would you give up? Would you just say, this is too hard, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to do something easier? I can tell you the answer to that is no, that the heart of the musician overcomes those obstacles. In 2008, I traveled to Iraq to teach in a 10-day institute, two 10-day institutes, one in Sulaymaniyah, one in Erbil, for performing arts. We were there at the invitation of the First Lady of Iraq, and I worked with students who ranged in age from 10 years old up through professional adult musicians. I also worked with teachers, exchanging some pedagogical ideas and strategies with them, and I learned a lot about the heart of the musician and what they can overcome. I knew going into this that resources were very limited. I was told that it's very difficult as a string player to have the things that you need. So I tapped into all of my musician friends and asked for donations and took a couple of extra suitcases full of sheet music and strings and shoulder rests and everything string players would need. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that was like spitting in the ocean. The needs were so huge that the little paltry bit that I brought really couldn't do all that much. Now, you have to understand, this was not a financial situation. This was not a matter of people not being able to afford these things. They just weren't available. Only the lowest quality of anything musically related ever made its way into Iraq, if there was even that. I had these wonderful students who had really terrific hopes and dreams and desires for their music study, and they had nothing to help them along the way. In most cases, not even teachers. There were violin teachers, but there were no cello teachers. And so my cello students were so excited to have a cello teacher there. And I had just the best time with them. I would say the majority of my students were of college age. And they were very, very thoughtful, and they were always so grateful for any help that I could give them. And when we talk about resources, instruments, that was probably the hardest thing to overcome. I went instrument shopping with one of my cello students, and believe me, you have not lived till you have gone cello shopping in the bazaar in Sulaymaniyah. It's a crazy place to be. It's full of live chickens and everything else you can imagine, and there's only one guy there that has music stuff. And he happened to have 3 cellos, and they were all 3 horrible cellos. So we played on them, we picked the least horrible of the 3, and the haggling began. And my student walked out with a cello in hand, having paid the equivalent of about 100 American dollars. So you can imagine, this was not a Strat. I kept thinking to myself, I'm really not sure this is any better than the instrument that he's already playing on. But you know what? Over those next days of the Institute, he absolutely beamed with pride of having this new instrument. And I thought, even if it's not a great instrument, it has served a great purpose. Then this young man brings me his cello, and he says, "My cello is hard to play and it sounds awful," which I have to tell you, any one of my cello students could have said that very statement. But I looked at his cello and realized that a part of it that should be cut down was not cut, and it was horrible and almost unplayable. And this kid had been trying to play this instrument. So I took my cello and I showed him the difference. And I went step by step and said, this is what a person needs to do to fix this, and this is what a person needs to do to fix this. I said, now you've got to find somebody that can do that. Oh, I can do that. This is a 16-year-old boy. And I said, no, you can't. You really can't. This has to be done by a professional. There are millimeter cuts that have to be done. No, I cut. And I thought, he can't make it any worse than it already is. So I let him go. He comes back the next day. He's beaming ear to ear. And you know what? It was not a perfect bridge, but it was a lot better. And his cello sounded better, and he could play it. And I just had this realization that when you want something badly enough, where you lack the resources, you make resourcefulness. So my students came from all over. They came from northern Iraq, where they spoke Kurdish. They came from southern Iraq, where they spoke Arabic. I was usually working with at least one, often two interpreters. And I would often forget where I was in terms of, I'm in a country that has been ravaged by war. And these students would be so happy and find such joy in their music making that it would just take us out of the day-to-day parts of being in Iraq. Now, I always felt very safe and very secure there, although I have to say, my initial entry into the country, I was grabbed in the airport by a member of the Asayish, which is the security detail for the First Lady, and I was put in the back of a bulletproof SUV and driven for 3 hours from Erbil to Suleimania, through the mountains, sitting in the back seat, looking at the guy in the passenger seat, making myself painfully aware of why that seat is called shotgun. He was armed to the teeth. But once I had arrived at my hotel, I moved freely. Went wherever I wanted, did whatever I wanted, and never had any security issues. I would walk home at night after I finished teaching at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I would walk home from the Ministry of Culture to the hotel where I was staying, about 6 blocks, by myself, dragging my cello behind me. And on every corner, there would be Peshmerga soldiers with guns, and they would wave at me, "Hello, mister." And it was the same guys every night because they were on the same schedule. And so it got to be kind of fun to see these same guys every single night. So it came time for our concert. And first of all, I never played a concert where everybody had to be removed from the building the afternoon of the concert to have a bomb sweep. So that was new. Then in Iraq, they do something that we would never dream of doing. They put way more people in the auditorium than it will hold, so that not only are all the seats full, but people are standing shoulder to shoulder through the aisles, and then they lock them in. And this is their idea of security. So I'm standing there while this concert is going on, thinking, I'm next, my group is next, how am I going to get to the stage? So I said to my interpreter, how do I get there? He said, oh, I'll talk to the soldier. So he approaches this young man and he explains the problem. And this guy says, looks at me and he smiles big, no problem. And I looked at my interpreter and I said, no, I think it's a problem. I don't think I can get through this crowd. So my interpreter talks to him a little bit more, and my interpreter says, it's really not an issue, just tell him when you're ready to go, and he will make sure you get to the stage. So, okay. So I'm listening outside the door, the group before us finishes, there's applause, and I turn to the soldier and I said, I'm ready. And he said, good. He throws the doors open, which of course gets the attention of everybody who's by the doors, and goes down the aisle gun first. But people parted like the Red Sea, and I walk up on stage. I can honestly say it's the only time I've received an armed escort to a stage for a performance. But the concert went beautifully. We had a great time. Everyone was very pleased, and I really felt like we had done a lot of good there, and I was ready to move on to Erbil for the next 10-day institute. And it was very heartwarming to spend time with these students outside of our rehearsals, because first of all, they always wanted to make sure that I was well taken care of. You know, they were always bringing me food, they were making sure I had rest in my breaks and things like that. And they were great fun to be with. But there are 3 photos that I want to share with you right now that are photos that I look at, and they always make me think about what I need to remember about the heart of a musician. So, these are some of the little kids that I worked with. We rehearsed in a building where, in Iraq, you don't rent a building, you buy the fuel for the generator. And that's how they make the profit, instead of on rental. So, everything runs on fuel. Lights, cooling system, and believe me, when it hits 122 degrees in the afternoon, you want that cooling system. But we rehearsed in a theater, not unlike this, that had no windows, and every single day we had a blackout. Every day. And usually it would just last for a minute. The kids were so good, and they would sit there really, really quietly and wait, and sometimes you'd hear a giggle, or sometimes you'd hear this sigh of exasperation, but they were so patient. One day, the lights didn't come back on as quickly as they normally would, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And instead of getting all bent out of shape about it, all of a sudden I hear a violin playing this beautiful Kurdish folk melody. One of the little kids had started playing this song. And a couple more joined in, and some of them started singing. And I have to tell you, I kind of hoped the lights wouldn't come back on. I was enjoying this so much. It was the most beautiful impromptu performance that I could have ever imagined. So I look at this picture, and when I look at their faces, I think music and the heart of a musician is more powerful than darkness. This is my friend Jabbar. Now, Jabbar was the concertmaster of one of the adult orchestras that I worked with, and he was just the kindest, most gentle soul you can imagine. He was such a gentleman, and he spoke beautiful English. We would have long conversations about the music that he loved and the musicians that he loved, and he shared with me photos of his family, his lovely wife, and his 2 young, adorable sons, and I just thoroughly enjoyed my conversations with Jabbar. So one day I made some comment about the life of a professional musician, and he said, "Oh, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. I don't do this professionally." I'm here just because I love music. And I said, well, that's fantastic, but what do you do when you're not playing the violin? And he smiled and said, I guess we've never really discussed that, have we? He said, I'm a general in the Peshmerga army. And I guess I looked a little confused. He said, I'm on leave right now to go to summer music camp. And so when I look at this picture of Jabbar, I always think that even though his family, when he was a kid, didn't want him to be a musician, didn't think that that was an appropriate path for him, his heart as a musician was stronger than the word no. Now this is Washak. Washak was one of 3 students that I had from Baghdad. I referred to them as my Baghdad Boys. And they were all 3 excellent musicians. Washak is a violinist, and he just has the most beautiful playing style and skill, and was just such a pleasure to work with. And his English was very good. We would have long conversations about what he wanted to do, and he would tell me about life in Baghdad and what life was like at his school and all of that. Then in December of 2009, I got up one morning and I'm reading online news and I'm reading Al Jazeera, and there's a headline that says that there has been a rash of bombings throughout Baghdad, including the school that I knew that he attended. And the article mentioned that there were kids killed and injured and that. So I immediately got on Facebook and I sent him a message and I said, hey Washak, I'm really worried about you. I read this article and I need to know that you're okay. Message me when you can. And so a day went by and I didn't hear from him, and I wasn't really panicked because access to internet, access to a computer could have, easily been the cause for the delay. And so I sent him, after about 24 hours, I sent him another message, worried, hope you're okay. And about a half a day went by and I get a message from him. And it says, thank you for your worries, which I loved. I thought that was beautifully phrased. Thank you for your worries. I had to go to the hospital and have glass picked out of my face, but I'm fine. Can you please send me a link for the music to Bach's Violin Concerto No. 1 in A minor? Wait a minute, He said, I would like very much to learn this for my audition for the National Youth Orchestra. And so I look at this picture of Washak, and I think, truly the heart of the musician can overcome anything. Thank you for your time.